Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and I've been reading through the Epistle to the Hebrews and up to chapter 12. So he begins, or he or she, we're not clear who the author was, toiga un kai hemas tosuton ekontes, perikaimenon hemin nephos, marturon onkon apothemenoi pantakai ten eu peristaton hamatian, dihupomones trekomen ton prokemenon hemin agona, apharontes es ton tes pistios archegon, kai teleioten iesun, hos antites pro kaimenes autokaras hupomenin, staron aiskunes, Cataphronesa syndexia tetu phrono to theou kekathiken. A long sentence. So toiga un is a combination of three particles. It's toiga and un, and it's really a sort of summarizing. It's a very strong therefore. So therefore also you, so the author addresses the people he's writing to, having tos uton goes with nephos. Nephos, you get nephile, which is the usual word for cloud. Nephos is a more poetic word for a cloud, but it's a perfectly good word. This writer likes to use quite elevated language. So having such a cloud, marturon of witnesses, and then in opposition to that, perikaimenon, literally lying around, and it takes a dative for you, so lying around you. Apothemenoi, casting off, it's from apotithemi, to take away, take off. Panta onkon. Onkon is just a word meaning a burden. So, taking away every burden, and hamatian, sin, Tain eu peristaton, and there's variant reading here. One manuscript has eu perisparton, from sparo, to draw. The word itself here its exact meaning is unclear. It's made up of eu, peri, and histemi, literally which stands well about you, often translated as easily besetting. The exact meaning is not clear, and in fact it only occurs here in all of Greek. So generally translated as easily besetting. So putting away every burden and easily besetting sin. Trekomen is a hortatory subjunctive from treco. Let us run de hupomones through steadfastness. And he likes this word hupomone and the corresponding verb. We're going to see it several times, I think, in this chapter. I can see it coming down here as well. So let us run through steadfastness the agona. The agone is a contest or a fight. We get our word agony, of course, from this, but it originally meant a contest in sport and so on, a trial. So let us run the trial, or the contest, which is lying in front for us, so lying in front of us, so set before us. Aphorontes, now this is from aphorao, and it means to turn one's eyes from something else. And then we get the ace too. It's only here in the New Testament. It's quite a fairly rare word. In fact, it turns up in the late Septuagint, fourth book of Maccabees, but it has the idea of turning one's eyes from one thing. So it's looking away to the ton goes with the archegon, the leader, perhaps instigator, we get the arch root in here, tes pistios, of the faith, and the one who perfects it, teleioten, this is a first declension masculine, teleiotes, a perfecter. And in opposition to all that is Yesun, is Jesus. So looking unto Jesus, the one who is the instigator of our faith, and the perfecter. Hos, who, antites prokaimenos autokaras, so who, in return for the joy, prokaimenes, which was lying before him, hupomeno, there's that, again we had hupomono, we get hupomeno as the verb, we're going to get it again down here. So he endured the stour on the cross, kataphronesas, despising, thinking down on, so despising the shame, and the main verb down here is kathiken. This is the perfect from kathisdo, to sit. So he sits en dexia, on the right, we understand something like kairi, hand. He has sat at the right hand of the throne of God. And we get a connecting te here. Analogisasthega ton toi auten hupo memene kota hupo tone hamatolone esiauton antilogian hiname kame tetais psukais humone ek luominoi. Now this is from analogisdamai, which means to this is an imperative here. It's a middle deponent verb. It means to consider closely. So consider closely, we get ton, and that's going with this perfect participle here, again from hupomeno. The one who has endured, and then we get toi autan, and I think that goes with the antilogian on the next bit. So the word order is a little bit odd here. So for, reckon closely the one having endured such antilogian, such opposition with regard to himself at the hands of sinners, hiname, in order that not, so in other words lest, kamete is aorist subjunctive from kamno, to be tired, so it's lest you become weary, and we get this ekluominoi, something like flagging or growing faint in your souls. In Homer there was an expression to loose your limbs. To loose someone's limbs meant that you basically knocked them out, and so that's this idea of luo, that your limbs are loose, that you become faint, and that's the sense of it here. So having become faint, and then we get this dative, perhaps in your souls. Upo mekris haimatos antikatesteti prosten hamatian ant agonizomenoi. Not yet, this is u plus po, so not yet, I'll go to the participle here, antagonizomenoi. This is from antagonisdamai. It's got that agon again there, that idea of a contest. So it means fighting, fight or struggle. It's a classical word. You'll see it in Demosthenes and Plato and so on, but it is only here in the New Testament. So it has the sense of struggling against sin, not yet, anti-katestati, from anti-kathistemi, to resist. You have not resisted, mekri haimatos, literally to the point of blood. So perhaps to the point of bloodshed. And this is really, another way of putting this is to stand your ground against. So you have not yet stood your ground against, i.e. fighting against. We could take it with the prostan hamartian, against sin. So you could translate this as not yet in your struggles have you stood your ground with regard to sin to the point of death. It's another way of taking this. Kai ek lelesti tes paraklesios hatis humin hos huiois dia legatai. And then we get a quotation. This is from if you look carefully at this verb, it's from ek lanthanamai, which this here is a perfect. So it's and the ek emphasizes it. So lanthanamai is to, in the middle, to forget. And the ek makes it very strong, to completely forget. This is sort of like a question here. You have, well, but it's the editor has left it as a statement. So, and you have completely forgotten, and it takes a genitive, the paraklesios, the exhortation or encouragement, hatis, which dia legatai, he relates, this must be referring to God, to you, hos huiois, as though to sons. And now we get a quotation here in these two verses here from Proverbs 3:11 to 12. Huiemu me oligore paideas kuriu, me di ekluu hup autu elenkominos, honga agapa kurios paidue mastigoi depanta huion hon paradekatai. So this is a vocative. So my son, and we get may plus an imperative. This is from oligorio, which means to regard as being nothing. So it means to make light of or to ignore. So do not make light of, do not think as something oligos, something small. The paideas, the discipline, connected with pies, of course, but the idea of training is the other possible meaning for this, discipline or training, kuriu of the Lord. Mede, and another imperative, nor, with a participle here, being reproved, from elenko, this is the present passive, being reproved by him, do not ekluo, do not become faint. Or perhaps often translated lose heart, but it's that ekluo we had in an earlier verse in the previous page there, the idea of growing faint. So do not grow faint, I think it's probably better rather than lose heart, but do not, either will do. Being reproved by him, for the Lord paidue, now we get the verb connected with the noun here, to discipline. For the Lord disciplines, this is Yahweh disciplines, whomever, and they don't put the an in the Septuagint, so whom he loves. We would say, better Greek would have an an here, whomever he loves. It just says, whom he loves the Lord disciplines. Mastigoi is from mastigoo, it's a verb. You get a contraction at the end here, so it is actually third person singular from mastigoo. He whips, mastix is a whip. So he whips or beats every son whom paradekatai he accepts. As paidean hupamenete hos huiois humin prospheritai hot theos. I think this is another, so endure with respect to discipline, since God prospheritai, this is another fairly rare word. It's used with the dative to mean to deal with. It originally meant something like behaves oneself towards, has a bearing towards, and then it comes to mean deals with. Since God deals with us, it's hos with the huios. God deals with us, hos huios, as though we were sons, so as sons. And it takes a dative. God deals with us as sons. Tiska huios hon u paiduo parte. For which son, understand, is there whom his father does not educate or discipline is the word I want. Yeah, discipline. E decoris esti paideas heis metokoi gegonas impantes are nothoi kai uk huioi este. But if understand you are, well, not understand, but esti, so if you are separate from discipline, and then this is parenthetical here, it's of which all of us have been born as sharers. In other words, so metokoi, it's from meteko, to share. Metokoi is a noun. So we would say in which we all share. So if you don't experience discipline, something which we all share, and then we get ara, which is introducing normally a question, but we haven't got a question here. It says ara means something like fittingly, Esther, you are nothoi, very strong word, it means bastard. You are bastards and not sons. Ater, tous men, now we're nice men, so we look out for the de coming up somewhere. Well, it's in brackets here, the de. So, ater tous men te sarkos hermon, paterus ercomen paidutas, kai en trepometha. Stop it there. So, where was I there? Oh, yeah, so the ater, ater's, you don't get that particle very often in the New Testament. It means moreover. So it's something like if then. So, moreover, we have fathers. So the tous men goes with the pateres. So we have fathers of the flesh, so in the flesh, as paidutas, as disciplinarians, Haman, of us. So we have human fathers. We have fathers according to the flesh as our disciplinarians. This is paidutas again, trainers. This is from paidutes, first declension masculine, and enetrepometha, and we have respect for them. We show regard to them. Upolu, now the det may have been put in here to balance the men, but it's not in the best manuscripts. So upolu demalon hupotage sometha to patri ton pneumaton kaitse somen. This is now a question. So shall we not be subject, from hupotasso, this is a future passive here, shall we not be subject all the more to the Father of spirits, literally, and sesomen, and we will live, hoimen gar tous oligas hemeras katatot dokun autois epaiduon, hode epi tot sumferon es to metalabain tes hagi otetos autu. So now we get a hoi men, and again when you've got the men you look for the de, and here it is here, the hode. So for a few days Now, I think the hoi men is referring back to the fathers. So the fathers, the main verb is here, paiduon, used to educate or used to discipline, understand us, for a few days, kata tot dokun autois, according to that which seemed good to them. Now this is an interesting use here. You get doke, impersonal, it seems good, and now they've turned that here, the author's turned that here into a participle. So this is a neuter participle formed from docio. And we're going to see a similar thing, in fact, here, sum feron, the same thing's happening, and paron, the same thing's happening. So interesting little bit of grammar there. So, so for they, that is the fathers, they used to educate, understand us for a few days, according to that which seemed good to them. Hoder, but he, that is God, I think here, understand, educates, we're going to supply the verb from here, or trains or disciplines us with respect to that which is expedient. You get sum fere is the impersonal verb, it is expedient, it is good for, and we're getting here the neuter participle formed from that. So, but he, God, understand, trains us with respect to that which is expedient, or perhaps to our benefit, resulting in, it's ace top plus infinitive, resulting in a metalabane, this is to share, metalambano is to have a share in, so resulting in us having a share of his holiness, from hagiotes, third declension, feminine noun. So perhaps that's, I hope, fairly clear. Passa de paidua pros men to paron udoke karasenai ala lupes, husteron de, there's the balancing de, carpon erenikon tois di autes gegum nas menois apodidos sidikaios. So, but all discipline, there we get the abstract noun here, all discipline, paideia, first declension feminine, well, with regard to the present time, again, they're using this, this is a neuter participle from parami. So all discipline, when it takes place, it is with regard to its present time. So when it takes place, does not seem to be, and we get a genitive here, a thing of joy, but a thing of grief. Interesting use of the genitive here. And then balancing the men, we get the de, so but afterwards, the subject of the verb is discipline, I think, but afterwards the discipline gives back literally fruit which is peaceful to the ones being trained. Now this is from gymnasdo, we get the gymnasium and so on from this. It's to do with nakedness because they used to exercise naked in the ancient world. So the verb itself, gymnasdomai, or gymnasdo, is to train, to exercise. So to the ones being exercised through it, it gives back the, and this has to go with the carpon. So I'll just do that bit again, it's a difficult bit. So all discipline with regard to the present time, so when it occurs, does not seem to be full of joy, but of grief. But afterwards, it gives back the peaceful fruit of righteousness to the ones being trained. It's a perfect passive participle here, di artes, through it, that is, through paideia. And that's the first part of, oh no, I've got to do verse 12, sorry, I thought I'd finish up to there. Dio to paremenas kairos kai ta parallelumena gonata and orthosity kai trochias orthas poiete tois posin humon hiname to colon ek trepe eathe demalon. Wherefore, now we get here paramenas. This is a participle from parahiemi, to let go, to neglect is the meaning of it. Here it's being used as an adjective in the sense of drooping or listless. It's more of a medical term, I think. So wherefore, make straight, so straighten up your listless or drooping hands, and your knees, which are parallelumina, not paralyzed, but perhaps feeble is the usual translation, I think. So straighten up your drooping hands and your feeble knees, and make trochia, very rare word. It means a wheel track. It's from that a trokos is a wheel. So a trochia is a track made by a wheel and hence a path. It's very poetic language the writer's using here. So make straight the paths, tois posin humon, for your feet, hiname, lest the top colon is your, or possibly here, your lame leg, lest your lame leg, ek trepe, again another medical technical term, might become disabled. In other words, lest your leg, which is lame, which is kolos, might become almost permanently disabled. And then we get de, but rather, athe, that it might be healed. This is an aorist passive here from iamai. And that's the first part of chapter 12.